Hello and welcome to the Riled Up podcast. Another episode, but as I'm sure you're noticing, it's just me today. No guest and no Presley, as sadly my favorite co-host is feeling a little bit sick. She's not feeling too hot. No Presley today, sadly. But we do have some of her information that she had prepared for this podcast because today is the mock draft special. As you know, by now, I'm sure I mentioned it in that first introductory episode. The NFL draft is by far and away my favorite sports event of the year. I love the NFL draft. I love the whole mock draft process, looking at these prospects, and something about these guys taking the next step, reaching like the highest level of professional football. Like something about that is just so awesome to me. So we're gonna do a full first round mock draft. I may even dip into the second round as well since Presley's not here. And we'll talk a little bit because I also posted my mock draft, posted that on the Rock Solid Sports website. As I mentioned, in just about every episode, this is the Rock Solid Sports podcast studio, WTK in general. I guess it's not necessarily Rock Solid Sports, but WTK, the campus radio station, is the podcast studio, and I also do a lot of work for them where on the shows and writing articles and things like that. And my kind of thing has been mock drafts, and I've done about three so far, and I just posted the most recent one, 3.0, the final one since the draft is tomorrow, obviously. That goes into the second round. So yeah, I'm all for going into the second round a little bit because I feel like there's some fun things that could happen there. So let's get the glasses on and get right into it. So obviously first overall, there's been so much speculation about what the Panthers might do tomorrow night, and where they might go with that first overall pick that they got from Chicago. Obviously, Chicago, worst record in the NFL last season, traded out, got a huge haul for it. Didn't really need a quarterback. Chicago didn't. So get out of there, let somebody else get it. And there have been rumors that the Panthers could do anything from trade down again because they're more comfortable with more of the quarterback options, or uh who they pick in that one spot has been reassessed, and there's just been a ton of speculation about that. But in my opinion, there's only one real quarterback that you can go first overall, and that's Bryce Young. Bryce Young, obviously, such a phenomenal player. We saw it at Alabama. He was just ridiculous, play in, play out. Um, when he's on the field, he's truly something special. The only thing keeping him from being the most unanimous, easy first overall selection of all time is his size, and obviously that's a concern, right? You don't want a quarterback to get in there and he's 5'10" or whatever, and he gets hit one time and now he's out for the rest of the season, right? It's a concern, and I understand that concern. But Bryce Young is just a lot of people compare him to a point guard. He just dishes the ball out perfectly, accurately, layers it over defenders. He's incredible. His escapability, he doesn't take sacks. Like that's something that I feel like gets lost a lot in this whole he's too small argument. He doesn't really take the sacks, right? There's not a whole lot of damage to worry about happening to him. But yeah, I think Bryce Young is the most unanimous first overall pick. And he's an incredible player, and he will be an incredible player at the NFL level. And Panthers gonna scoop him up first overall. Second overall, we got the Houston Texans. Now this is where I think the draft really starts, right? Because if the Panthers, wherever the Panthers go, Houston has the most options, right? Panthers, we pretty much know. I mean, I would be very shocked, but we pretty much know that they will be picking a quarterback at first overall. They're gonna get their guy, and that's just about written off. And most people assume it's Bryce Young. It could be a couple other guys, but most people assume it's Bryce Young, and rightfully so. With Houston, they could go so many different directions, right? We've heard so much from If Bryce Young's gone, they instead go Will Anderson, get some defense, get whoever their best defensive prospect is, whether it's Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson, or Jalen Carter. They go get their guy, get their defensive guy, one of these guys that's looked at as like a franchise changer, a cornerstone of your franchise. You go get one of these guys at 2, and then you use your 12th overall pick to get a quarterback. I don't think that's the right option. I think Houston needs to get their guy. Because at 12, no matter what, I think you're picking from the last one available. You're not gonna have your choice of Bryce Young, Will Levis, um, Anthony Richardson, or CJ Stroud. You're not gonna have that at 2 or at 12. At 2, though, you will have the option of pretty much any of them besides probably Bryce Young. Probably Bryce Young. It could be CJ Stroud, but probably Bryce Young. So Houston Texans, I think they make the home run swing. They just go for the fences here and pick the guy with the highest upside in this draft, right? This player could go down as the greatest of all time. I mean, but you could say that about pretty much any player, right? Anthony Richardson. And I know a lot of you are Tennessee fans and you're thinking, Anthony Richardson, what? Anthony Richardson is terrible. Because for some reason, SEC fans really do not believe in Anthony Richardson and Will Levis. And I can understand the concerns for Will Levis. The things that Anthony Richardson brings physically are so different. They're so unique, and his skill set is so ridiculously useful at the NFL level, right? That I feel like he easily has the highest ceiling in this class. And even his floor, I don't think is all that low. You look at a team like the Texans, right? You're probably not going to be good this year. Probably not. So I think they have a lot more going for them in the run game than they do in the passing game. And what Anthony Richardson brings as a ball carrier, I think outweighs the things that the other guys bring as pure passers, right? Because even with the Texans, even if your pass game is not going to be great this year, and Anthony Richardson still does need time to develop that, right? He's deadly accurate when he gets his mechanics right, when he's set in his stance and he delivers that ball. Anthony Richardson's better than anybody in the class at that. His on the move accuracy is incredible. Anthony Richardson has all the tools that you want. It's just sometimes he doesn't get those feet set. He doesn't get his legs set, and he just kind of misses the throw. And that's such an easy fix that I think Anthony Richardson will end up being the best quarterback from this class. So the Texans take the swing there. Regardless, I think he has the rushing upside of a guy like Justin Fields in year 1. I mean, the thing with Anthony Richardson is he has the build of a linebacker, the speed of a wide receiver, the power, the strength of a running back, and the mind of a quarterback. Anthony Richardson has it all, and I over time I've absolutely fallen in love with Anthony Richardson. If you look at my prospect rankings by position at the quarterback position, it goes number 1 Anthony Richardson, number 2 Bryce Young, number 3 C.J. Stroud, number 4 Will Levis, number 5 Hendon Hooker. And I feel like it's because of all of those physical tools that Anthony Richardson brings, and what he put on tape. A lot of people say, "Oh, turn on the game tape." Oh, you can fall in love with the tools, the size, and all that, but turn on the game tape and he's not a good quarterback. You're not watching the same game tape as me. Anthony Richardson is layering the ball over defenders. He's extending plays. Anthony Richardson's going to be a very good quarterback. I really like him. Now, I said the same thing about Josh Rosen, and we see how that turned out. So obviously, next year comes around, you can laugh at me, you can call me wrong. But I really like Anthony Richardson. I'm much more confident in Anthony Richardson than I am in Josh Rosen. But it should be noted in that draft, behind Josh Rosen, I had Lamar Jackson. And then after Lamar Jackson, I had Baker Mayfield. And those were the 2 most successful guys out of that draft class. Then I had Sam Darnold. Or sorry, no, Josh Allen. Josh Allen was 3. And then Baker Mayfield. And then Sam Darnold. So I had the rankings right besides the number 1 guy. I thought Josh Rosen was a more pro-ready passer, but I learned from my Josh Rosen mistake, and now I'm going with the guy that's a little bit more toolsy, but has the upside of being the best quarterback here, and that is what Anthony Richardson brings. At pick number 3, you have the Indianapolis Colts. I say they trade up with Arizona to prevent the Titans from trading up to that spot and selecting Levis. I think Levis in every way just feels like a Colt. He's the most pro-ready guy. I think the Colts are in a position where they kind of want to compete faster than they want to develop somebody. And Levis has been connected to the Colts in a million different ways, right? Workouts, interviews. Apparently, the Colts just love Will Levis. Do I think he should be selected this high? No. But it's the Colts. When do the Colts ever really do what we expect? So I have to go with Levis going to the Colts at number 3. By the way, in that trade up, I feel like they send maybe a 2024 second and a 2023 third to move up one spot with Arizona. Arizona back a spot, I think gets the best defender in the draft because the Cardinals need everything. They need everything. That's a fact. They need corners. They need defensive linemen. They need edge rushers. They need linebackers. They need safeties. They need just about everything on the defensive side of the ball. And once they move DeAndre Hopkins, which I do think will happen on draft night, probably for a second or third round pick. So when we get to the second round, that might look a little different. But I think the Cardinals at number 4 go Jalen Carter. He's the best player available in the draft. He's an absolute monster. And since I know many of you are Tennessee fans, you can attest to the fact that he was a monster against our offensive line in that Georgia game. I remember watching that, and it was just like it felt like every play Jalen Carter was pushing Hendon Hooker off his spot, making him miss the throws. He was either getting the pressure or the sack on just about every play. Jalen Carter, he's going to be a great player. So Arizona, I think, has a good draft move here by moving back one, still getting the best player available in the draft, and loading up on some picks later on to help continue build their roster. At number 5, I've got the Seattle Seahawks taking Will Anderson, another player that's gotten a lot of best player available hype. I think he's a safer pick than Carter because of the off the field issues or whatever, right? He's a safer pick, but he doesn't have the upside that Carter does. So for now, I think the Seahawks pass on a quarterback. I think later on they target one of the tier 2 guys outside of Levis, Stroud, and Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson. I think they target the next level of guys, and I'm sure we'll see where that goes in the second round. But yeah, Will Anderson, absolute monster. He's going to be good at the NFL level. He's going to be at least a 10 sack guy, probably. Might be defensive rookie of the year. I mean, he'll be in the running for it for sure. Now, at number 6, big surprise. Oh, it's the Detroit Lions. But I feel like on draft night, we're going to hear the Detroit Lions have traded the number 6 overall pick to the Tennessee Titans. I think the Tennessee Titans move up to 6, seeing Stroud falling down the board. The Raiders pick at 7. There's going to be other people trying to trade up, right? The Buccaneers, the Falcons might take a quarterback. I mean, people could trade up to 9. People could trade up to 10 to get a new to try to get a quarterback to jump Tennessee to get CJ Stroud. I think the Titans go aggressive. New general manager in the building. It's not John Robinson anymore. Rand Carthon's going to go up there, get his guy at number 6, trading down, or Detroit trading down, giving up. Titans are going to give up a number 11. They're going to give up a 2024 first and third round pick and a 2025 second, as well as Malik Willis to go get CJ Stroud, right? So in the process, in the process of getting CJ Stroud, trading down for Detroit, they get lots of future draft capital. So if next year they want to make a move up to go get a quarterback, which I think the Lions might do next year, Caleb Williams, Drake May, the Lions give up a bunch of the Lions amass some draft capital for their future so that next year they can make a move up for quarterback. At the same time, get a backup quarterback for this year, move only back to number 11, and the Titans get CJ Stroud, who I think could end up being the best player here, best player um, for the Titans in this draft. Um, I don't think there's anybody else that the Titans really would need at 11 desperately, other than maybe if Paris Johnson Jr. is there. I don't think he will be. Maybe if Skoronski's there, but he's a guard. Maybe. I mean, I don't love the upside on Skoronski. So instead, the Titans go and affect their future, get CJ Stroud. He sits for a little bit behind Ryan Tannehill before he eventually Tannehill's Tannehill and becomes the Titans starter for the future. Uber accurate, great quarterback. I love CJ Stroud. I don't buy into the S2 score thing. Allegedly, those were fake. Those leaked scores just weren't real. So I'm not putting too much stock into that. So yeah, I think the Titans go up, get CJ Stroud. After the Malik Willis experiment, they move on, they get their guy, hopefully their franchise guy. And he can dish out the ball to the young weapons the Titans have. Traylon Burks, Chiga Okonkwo, great players. And that Ohio State connection between Mike Vrabel and CJ Stroud, I think eventually comes to fruition on draft night. At pick number 6, the Tennessee Titans move up and select CJ Stroud. At number 7, we're gonna start picking up the speed here a little bit. Number 7, I think the Raiders take Devin Witherspoon. Not my favorite corner in the draft, but a lot of people's favorite corner in the draft, and I think that's where the Raiders will go on draft night because they tend to lean towards um, these more like see how they grow players, right? Devin Witherspoon, I think, could grow into the best corner in this class, but as it stands currently, I like Christian Gonzalez more out of Oregon. So the Raiders pick at number 7. They miss out on all the top quarterbacks, so instead they go to win now, get their guy, and build that cornerback room, which is probably the worst in the NFL. So the Raiders, Devin Witherspoon out of Illinois, great player. At number 8, Atlanta Falcons getting Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech. The Falcons spent the whole offseason building their defense, and I think they're still missing some guys along the defensive line. So Tyree Wilson, edge rusher out of Texas Tech. He's going to be a disruptive player for Arthur Smith to play with in Atlanta. And yeah, he's been mocked as high as number 2 to the Texans. A lot of people like Tyree Wilson instead. I think he falls down to 8 here just because other people jump up, other needs arise, and I think Tyree Wilson falls to number 8 to the Falcons, which will be a steal for them. They'd love to have him. Chicago Bears picking out of Carolina's pick that they traded away. I think that's where their Paris Johnson Jr. premier offensive tackle out of Ohio State goes. Bears need to build up their offensive line. They got some weapons by getting DJ Moore. So I think instead the Bears build out their offensive line, get Paris Johnson Jr., probably the most pro-ready player, most pro-ready tackle in this offensive line class. So yeah, I think that's kind of a home run pick. Pick number 10, the Philadelphia Eagles. Here's where it gets interesting. Philadelphia Eagles don't really have any needs on their roster, right? They could stand to get younger in a couple positions. Maybe they go corner here. But I like them to pick Bijan Robinson, running back out of Texas. Yeah, it's a luxury pick. Running backs aren't valued this highly. Running backs probably shouldn't go this high. But Bijan Robinson is such a phenomenal prospect, right? This is probably the best running back prospect since Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley went, what, 2 or 3? Bijan Robinson at 10, I feel like is great value. You look at what Saquon did for the Giants, right? They weren't great. They haven't been great, but Saquon has easily been the best player on that team for a while. So I think the Eagles at number 10, they go Bijan Robinson. Great player. He's going to be a great player. And yeah, it's high for a running back, but come on, man. They don't really have any other needs. They could trade down to who? Who's going to trade up for at this stage to get who? Yeah, I got the Philadelphia Eagles taking Bijan Robinson. The step he is above the other running back prospects, I think he's a home run pick, and I think he's a safe bet for the Eagles on draft night. The Detroit Lions picking out a Tennessee spot where they traded down to get cornerback Christian Gonzalez, already mentioned earlier. He's my favorite corner in this draft. He's fluid hips. He can mirror just about anybody. The Lions need a corner. I had them picking a corner before they traded away Jeff Okudah to the Falcons. So they definitely need a corner now. And I like Christian Gonzalez to be the young guy, another young cornerstone for that defense to build on. The Houston Texans, number 12. I think they picked Miles Murphy out of Clemson, edge rusher. Okoronkwo, their edge rusher was really good last year. He left for Cleveland in free agency, so they need some juice off the edge. Give him Murphy, Miles Murphy. He's another one of those tier 1 guys. He's been mocked as high as like 5 to the Seahawks. I like him here at 12 to the Texans. Another guy for D'Amico Ryans to build the defense. I think if they pick Stroud at 2, blow everybody out of the water, ignore the whole CJ Stroud as the same agent as Deshaun Watson, ignore the whole S2 score thing, and they instead go CJ Stroud at number 2. I think they can go Jackson Smith-Njigba here, his college teammate, his wide receiver. But instead, they go Anthony Richardson and they go Miles Murphy. Green Bay Packers picking from the New York Jets pick that they just got out of the Aaron Rodgers trade. The Green Bay Packers, I think, go with tight end Dalton Kincaid out of Utah. This kind of depends with how comfortable Green Bay is with the other tight ends. There's about 4 guys that I think can kind of be, there's about 4 guys there that are in that higher level that teams really like this year. And if Green Bay is just as comfortable with, say, a Darnell Washington as they are Dalton Kincaid, then they can let this slip and get like Peter Skoronski, build the offensive line in Green Bay. But Kincaid is such a playmaker, man. He's sure-handed, and it's a position of need for the Packers, their current starter. They need a tight end. Let me just tell you that. So I like them to go get Dalton Kincaid at number 13 overall. It's maybe a little high for a tight end, and maybe they think they can get one later and they go offensive line here instead. But I feel like they're going to want to, and it just makes so much sense for them to draft a pass catcher in the first round as soon as Aaron Rodgers leaves. Number 14, the New England Patriots. I have them picking my wide receiver 3 in this draft, Quentin Johnston out of TCU. Quentin Johnston has a lot of tools. He's big bodied. But the issue is he makes dumb decisions with the ball in his hands. He doesn't play like a contested catch receiver. And he has a couple of focus drops. I don't love Quentin Johnston as this high, but he's apparently the Patriots really like Quentin Johnston. They've been connected to him on several visits and things like that. Maybe they fall in love with the size, the speed that he has, and think they can coach the rest out, which I think they definitely can. He just kind of feels like a Patriot to me, so I feel like the Patriots go for Quentin Johnston out of TCU. At the pick number 15, formerly the Green Bay pick, instead it's the Jets trading down for that Aaron Rodgers trade. Here's where Peter Skoronski finally goes off the board, premier offensive line prospect. He's versatile, just like Elijah Vera Tucker, a similar guy they picked a couple years ago. And they can play wherever. So that versatility early in their careers will be a major asset to Aaron Rodgers, to that offensive line. At pick number 16, I have the Washington Commanders grabbing Joey Porter Jr. out of Penn State, cornerback. Another place where I feel like the Commanders really do need to improve in their cornerback room. Joey Porter Jr. super physical. He's going to be a great player. He can get a little handsy, and sometimes he gets beat on that like deep speed, those deep speed guys. But the ball skills are obviously there, and he's always there. He's always around the play, and he plays physical. Those are the kind of traits that I feel like you value in a cornerback. So give him to the Commanders. Pick number 17. We have our first Tennessee Volunteer coming off the board. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to select offensive tackle Darnell Wright out of Tennessee. Now, there have been some concerns here and there about Darnell Wright's football character. Now, what does that mean? Allegedly, he's lazy, or he doesn't really want to pick up schemes and things like that. But the thing with Darnell Wright is the talent is obviously there. His pass game sets incredible, and there is some concern, right? Tennessee, Hendon Hooker, two-step drop throw, two-step drop throw. He's getting the ball out quickly. He's there for two. He takes 2 steps back. He never really moves the pocket. So Darnell Wright doesn't have a whole lot of experience with a moving pocket, a quarterback dropping deeper. So instead, some teams are saying that lack of experience against the outside shoulder rush, you never really had to deal with that, right? Guys are always trying to move inside so they can disrupt Hendon Hooker. Because if they go outside, it takes them too long to get to the quarterback. By that time, he's already moved the ball. I understand those concerns and they're valid concerns, but I think the complete dominance he showed against guys like Will Anderson again in that Alabama game locked Will Anderson down. Will Anderson even called him the best tackle he faced in college. Guys like BJ Ojulari, who I think has first round upside from LSU, locked him down in that LSU game in Death Valley. I like Darnell Wright to go number 17 to the Steelers. Lots of talent, especially in those pass game sets. Could stand to improve in the run game, but that's something the Steelers they'll get him locked out. Steelers always had great offensive line unit, and I think they can work wonders with Darnell Wright. Pick number 18, the Detroit Lions, picking for the second time in the draft. I think they go with Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa. Edge rusher. Detroit needs to build out that defensive line. That the skill that Van Ness brings. He's athletic sometimes though. He just tries to win with power. Doesn't really have any consistent moves he goes to other than these power moves. So he gets a couple more finesse moves in there. I think he can be a really good football player and works well to complement Aiden Hutchinson on the other end. So you got Lucas Van Ness and Aiden Hutchinson, two very young pass rushers on each side of the defensive line. I think that's a scary prospect for opposing teams. Number 19, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is another team that's been thought to go quarterback. So could they go Hendon Hooker? No. I don't think they go Hendon Hooker. They have a lot of needs. The Bucks do, and they've got Baker Mayfield for 1 year, right? They have a bridge here. So instead of quarterback, instead of reaching for Hendon Hooker here, I think they go with cornerback Deonte Banks out of Maryland. Easily the best player available on the board right here, right? Deonte Banks is one of my favorite players in this draft. He's my number 3 cornerback. And I feel like this is a very talented cornerback class. I feel like the two other guys at corner could be, top 15 selections. I think Deonte Banks is right about with them. I think he's about a top 15 selection. He falls down to 19 here. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get him. They need corners. Their cornerback room is, not looking too hot. They got some older guys in there, some veterans, but they need another guy. And Deonte Banks is he's a great player. He's going to be a great player. And I think the Buccaneers need to grab him here. And this is where I think the lockdown first round prospects end. Besides, a couple more guys here in a minute that I'll talk about, some wide receivers. At pick number 20, Seattle Seahawks. They're going to take O'Cyrus Torrence out of Florida. Probably the best inside offensive line prospect besides Skoronski, if you want to consider him a guard prospect, which I think he will ultimately be in the NFL. O'Cyrus Torrence. But if you're looking at pure, this guy plays offensive guard, this guy plays right guard, O'Cyrus Torrence is your guy. Huge, absolute beast on the interior. And he's going to bolster that offensive line for both Geno Smith and Kenneth Walker III and maybe a future quarterback. Yeah, he's a great player. Probably more of an early second round guy for me. But the need is there, right, for inside offensive line or interior offensive line. So I think the Seahawks take a little bit of a reach here. because they've got more picks from that Denver Broncos trade for Russell Wilson, robbed the Broncos. So the Seahawks right here, Osiris Torrance, easy. Now, what would be the 21st pick, the Miami Dolphins, they forfeit their first rounder for a chance at Tom Brady. So what that means is there was an investigation for tampering. The league found that Miami had, done some illegal things, trying to not, illegal, but illegal in the league's terms, trying to recruit Tom Brady to Miami. So they lose their first round pick. There's only going to be 31 first round picks in this draft. So instead, pick number 21 is the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, this is a spot where a lot of people have Jalen Hyatt maybe going. But in this case, Jackson Smith-Njigba is still on the board. My favorite wide receiver in this draft, my wide receiver one in this draft, out of Ohio State. And he falls all the way to 21. LA's running the card up to the commissioner. The moment Seattle picks. You're gonna see on draft night, if this scenario plays out, the pick is locked in as soon as it says Chargers are on the clock. He's a walking big play. The Chargers need some juice offensively. They need some speed, which is why a lot of people think maybe Jalen Hyatt goes here over some of the other guys that maybe are better. But Jackson Njigba has that speed. A lot of people just think he's gone before this. In this scenario, he falls, and the run on wide receivers begins at pick number 22. The Baltimore Ravens go with wide receiver Zay Flowers, my second favorite wide receiver. So now that's wide receiver 1, 2, and 3 gone off of my board. Zay Flowers out of Boston College. He's a little small, but he's explosive, man. He plays bigger than his size. He moves laterally better than anybody in this class. And if Lamar Jackson decides to stay, he now has an incredible set of weapons, right? They go get Odell Beckham Jr. They go get Nelson Aguilar. And now you have Zay Flowers, who is just a walking explosion on the field, right? He's going to go get you a big play just about any time you get the ball in his hands. He creates separation laterally. He's quick. He's agile. You get the ball in his hands, he makes big things happen. I absolutely love Zay Flowers. And maybe we see the Ravens picking somewhere else, because maybe Lamar Jackson gets moved to a team that needs a quarterback, maybe to Detroit. But I don't see that happening, right? I think Lamar was probably going to stick around in Baltimore at least for another season. And I think the Ravens try to entice him into staying by going and getting Zay Flowers in the first round. At pick number 23, another wide receiver, Jordan Addison out of USC. I have him ranked as my fourth favorite wide receiver in this draft. So that's wide receiver 1, 2, 3, and 4 off the board. At pick number 23, Jordan Addison out of USC. He's going to be a slot receiver, but he's dynamic. He's very fast. He's a great route runner. And he's an upgrade over Adam Thielen. And paired with Justin Jefferson, that's a scary receiving core for Minnesota. Now, there's been some rumblings about Minnesota maybe moving up to get a quarterback in this draft. I don't see it happening. A lot of people think this is a spot where maybe Hendon Hooker goes at pick number 23. I don't think if the Vikings really want to make a splash at quarterback, I don't feel like Hendon Hooker at 23 is the answer. I feel like maybe you go get an upgrade over Adam Thielen and Jordan Addison and see what Kirk Cousins can do. But if these rumblings about Minnesota going up and getting a quarterback are true, I'll be very interested to see how they trade up, because they're going to have to trade up at least further than 11. And from 23 to 11 is a major jump in the first round. From 23 into the top 10, that's a whole other thing, right? So I'll be interested to see how that plays out on draft night. But in this scenario, they stay put, they get their guy, explosive wide receiver, to pair with Justin Jefferson and probably KJ Osborne. At pick number 24, the Jacksonville Jaguars Division rival for the Tennessee Titans are going to go cornerback Cam Smith out of South Carolina. This is just one of those need based picks, right? Cam Smith, good player. Not going to be, elite in my opinion, but he'll be a good player and a good starter in the NFL. And that's what the Jaguars need here at the cornerback position. They could go safety. Brian Branch, my favorite safety in this draft, still on the board. But the cornerback position, I feel like, is a bigger need. And Smith's physicality, it's going to be a great asset for the Jaguars. Now, the Giants, speaking of Brian Branch, instead goes one pick later to the New York Giants. Brian Branch out of Alabama. He can play safety. He can play nickel. He's versatile in that defense. Something that's going to be valued by the Giants coaching staff. Brian Daboll. I like that. I like Brian Branch here, right? But if a wide receiver does fall, that's obviously going to be the pick here for the Giants. They need a wide receiver, but in this scenario, top four, gone off the board just before he gets the Giants. The big run happens. So maybe the Giants trade up to go secure a wide receiver. I don't see that happening. They stay put, get a safety that can be played pretty much anywhere in the defensive backfield. And it's a position of need for the Giants. So I like this for them. I pick number 26, the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys fans want Bijan. Bijan's not going to be there, buddy. I hate to break it to you. Bijan Robinson's going to be long gone. So instead, they get Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama. Little small, right? He's a little small, but boy, was he effective at Alabama. Big play, great at catching passes out of the backfield. He'll be the complement to Tony Pollard, just as Tony Pollard was the complement to Ezekiel Elliott. The Cowboys like to run two running backs, and you don't know if Pollard's ready to take over the full 100%. He's the guy, bell cow load at the running back position. So instead, Bijan goes early to the Eagles. The Cowboys settle for Jahmyr Gibbs at pick number 26. Another one where it's like, can he go that high? Like, that feels a little bit high for a running back, especially running back 2. But Jahmyr Gibbs, his big playability, his ability to catch the ball, I feel like it's going to be a step up for the Dallas offense. He's explosive, but he's explosive in the pass game, whereas Tony Pollard is explosive running the football. So that gives you two options out of the backfield. It'll be good. It'll be a good offense for the Cowboys. Pick number 27, Buffalo Bills. That's another team that's been mocked running back pretty repeatedly, but both top 2 running backs off the board. None of the other running backs are worth a first round pick. So instead, you go Broderick Jones, tackle out of Georgia. Great player, and probably the last guy that I have as like a guaranteed good player. Broderick Jones. And I think he goes to the Buffalo Bills at 27. That's a ton of value at 27 because some people have him as the best tackle in this draft, and I can definitely understand why. He's massive, and he's incredible. So I think he immediately comes in and competes for the right tackle spot on an already very competitive Buffalo Bills roster. So I feel like this is a great pick for the Bills. The only other thing the Buffalo Bills are either picking a tackle or they're picking a running back, depending on what the better player is available. If Jahmyr Gibbs is there, maybe it's Jahmyr Gibbs. If Bijan's there, it's obviously going to be Bijan at 27 for the Bills. But if neither of those guys are there, it's going to be a tackle, and it's probably going to be a good tackle because if a running back falls that far, somebody else is picking something else. People are not picking what is expected. And I think if Broderick Jones is there, if Darnell Wright is there, they're going to immediately come in and compete for a right tackle spot in Buffalo. The Cincinnati Bengals have them taking tight end Michael Mayer at pick 28 out of Notre Dame. Mayer was originally the unanimous tight end 1 coming into this draft season. He's fallen down one spot on my board behind Kincaid out of Utah because I appreciate Kincaid's explosiveness in the pass game because that's just the way the NFL is moving. But Mayer, he's more your traditional tight end, big body. He's gonna get out there. He's gonna block. He's gonna meet his assignment in the run game. but he also has the ability to catch balls consistently. And I think will be a good, important down. You need to pick up some yardage. You toss it to Michael Mayer, and he's going to catch the ball. Um, I like Luke Musgrave. I like Darnell Washington. I feel like Michael Mayer is better. So Michael Mayer goes to the Cincinnati Bengals, who need a tight end at number 28. At number 29, New Orleans Saints, formerly the New Orleans Volunteers, but they let Shot Total go, so I don't know if they still get that name. New Orleans Saints. This is a pick via San Francisco. I forget what this pick is for. Um, but they go Kalijah Cansey out of Pitt. Now, Kalijah Cansey has been considered probably the most overrated player in this draft because he gets Aaron Donald comparisons, probably because they go to the same school. Kalijah Cansey is way too small to be Aaron Donald, but he is explosive. He may be small for the defensive line position. He's going to get in there. He's going to push the center back, and he's going to affect the quarterback. He's going to affect things in the run game. Maybe he doesn't always make the play on the ground, but the moment that quarterback drops back, Kalijah Cansey's back there in the backfield. He's a disruptor, and I really like Kalijah Cansey. He's undersized but effective. Continuing with that theme, I picked number 30 to the Philadelphia Eagles. Edge Nolan Smith out of Georgia. Undersized, but effective. He's a great player to be drafted this late. He has elite speed and tracking down the quarterback. Definitely his strength, right? If he gets in the backfield, the quarterback's not, making some magic happen and running out the pocket and picking up 15 yards. No, if Nolan Smith gets back there, the quarterback is going down. That is a sack. That is the strength that Nolan Smith brings. Nobody's better than him in the open space defensively. I really like Nolan Smith to be a guy that the Eagles can rotate in, slowly get him some time as they get ready to move away from older guys. Nolan Smith, definitely your speed rusher. He's going to make that offensive tackle, get that drop to make sure they can keep up with that speed that Nolan Smith brings. And our final pick of the first round, oh my goodness, this has been a fun one recently. I've heard Hendon Hooker going to the Chiefs at 31 to back up Patrick Mahomes. No, I don't like that. I've heard Jalen Hyatt goes to the Chiefs at 31 because they need some juice offensively. And I don't see that happening either. There are too many flaws in Jalen Hyatt's game. So instead, the Chiefs go with offensive tackle Anton Harrison out of Oklahoma. They could definitely stand to improve their offensive line. It's either going to be offensive line or receiver here. And I think they get better value with wide receiver in round 2. So they move to get younger on the offensive line and bring in somebody who can compete for a starting spot in Anton Harrison. Some people have him as the best tackle in this draft. This is a very good tackle class, by the way. Four guys that I think could be considered a wide receiver 1. It just depends on how highly you value certain things. And Anton Harrison, he'll be somebody that can come in and compete for a spot as a starter for the Chiefs. Starting with round 2, the Pittsburgh Steelers are picking because they sent Chase Claypool. So the Steelers in any other draft are getting a first round pick number 32. The Steelers send a first round, or the Steelers receive a first round pick, albeit, pick 32 for Chase Claypool. Great play for them. And I think they'll pick a defensive lineman, Brian Bresee out of Clemson. Monster, very bulky, and I think that translates to the NFL level. Houston Texans at pick 33, they answer the quarterback need. They answer the edge need. What's the last thing remaining? Wide receiver. And I think they reach a little bit to get wide receiver Josh Downs out of UNC, North Carolina. And Josh Downs, he's a dynamic slot receiver. Dynamic is the word you always see with Josh Downs. It's because he's very, very good at creating separation against those linebackers, against those safeties. And I like Josh Downs to be the pick here for the Texans. 34, Arizona Cardinals picking Keely Ringo out of Georgia. I like Keely Ringo. I'm very high on him compared to other people. I think he's my cornerback 6 in this class. and he's physical. He's a little slow on flipping his hips, but in man coverage, he's going to be very good at the NFL level. Maybe a guy you got to move in and out given the downs or what you need schematically, but to start off as a main corner, he's going to be good in the NFL. He likes to get physical, and that kind of cornerback, I think the Cardinals could definitely benefit from because they could benefit from just about any player in the draft. Indianapolis Colts, they go offensive tackle DeJuan Jones out of Ohio State. He'll either compete with the left tackle spot for Bernard Ryman or immediately slot into the right guard spot opposite Quentin Nelson, sorry. The Colts definitely need some offensive line help. They don't also need wide receiver help, but with Josh Downs, that's the top 5 guys gone. Can't really pick a wide receiver at 35 if he's not one of the top 5 guys. Los Angeles Rams picking for the first time in this draft at 36. Isaiah Foskey out of Notre Dame, edge rusher. He's fallen down my board outside of my top 5 edge rushers now, but he's a high upside pick, and he'll immediately fill a need for Los Angeles. Back-to-back edge rushers give me Will McDonald the fourth out of Iowa State going to the Seattle Seahawks. It's a value pick. They're going to assume that Hendon Hooker falls a little bit further, and I think that he will. So with the Denver pick, they grab Will McDonald the fourth out of Ohio State. It's 2 edge rushers now. They replaced both of their edge rushers. They needed to replace both of their edge rushers. So I like this for Denver or for Seattle, fixing both sides of their defensive line in the first couple of picks that they get, or first 3 picks. They fix both sides of their offensive, or they fix both sides of their defensive line and fix their offensive line. Raiders at 38, they reach a little bit to get Steve Avila out of TCU. I don't have Avila ranked this highly, but they need an offensive lineman badly. They need guys to come in and compete for spots in the offensive line. So I like Steve Avila there to the Raiders. Carolina Panthers, edge rusher BJ Ojulari. I think he has first round value. So in the early second round, it's a little bit of a steal for the Panthers. Ojulari has great potential. He played very well at LSU against some very great SEC tackles. So yeah, I like Ojulari to go to the Panthers at 39. Great edge rusher. Anybody that played him, if you were watching that Tennessee game, he didn't have the biggest effect because of Darnell Wright, but he certainly got in the backfield a couple times. Oh my goodness, this is a tough name. So forgive me if for some reason you see this. Adetomiwa Adebawore. I know his last name's Adebawore, but that first name is tough. Edge out of Northwestern. He's going to go to the New Orleans Saints. The premium offensive line prospects long gone. The Saints got to move. They got to pivot a little bit to continue improving that defense. And Adebawore is part of that, tier 2 of edge prospects. They'll fly off the board in late round 1 to mid round 2. Now, pick 41, we've got the Tennessee Titans. What did the Tennessee Titans do? They went up and got a quarterback earlier. They held on to that second round pick. What do, right? I just mentioned most of your premier offensive line prospects are off the board. The Titans can't go offensive line. Where do they go? Wide receiver. And who do they pick? Hendon Hooker. No, I'm kidding. Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee. Yeah. A lot of people have Hendon Hooker being mocked here if the Titans don't go quarterback in the first round. I think instead they go quarterback in the first round and they get Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee. Explosive, dynamic. I'll go there, man. Tennessee goes to Tennessee and picks up a wide receiver that is explosive, right? My issue, okay, I've got a lot of issues with Jalen Hyatt, right? Not personally, but as his game, as a prospect. Jalen Hyatt, limited route tree at Tennessee. And the half field reads, that's good. That's a good thing for him. He's good at reading the defense, but he has a limited route tree. He did one thing and one thing only, and that was exploit busted coverages. There's going to be less busted coverages in the NFL for you to exploit. At the end of the day, though, you can't teach speed. You can teach some of these other things. You can't teach speed. And that's what Jalen Hyatt brings. Is he undersized? Yes. But he blocks way better than his size would suggest. He's aggressive in the run game, going to go get his guy and hold him down so that the run game can flourish. I think this is kind of like a Mike Vrabel sees this and he's like, yeah, yeah, I like this guy. And that's he's explosive. He does one thing and one thing really well. He's a one trick pony. He gets that label all the time. He's a one trick pony. And I'll say yes, you're right. But his one trick is creating explosive plays. And at the NFL level, if you generate more explosive plays than your opponent, you win the game. So while this wouldn't be my favorite pick as a Titans fan, I would almost rather than pick the other Tennessee wide receiver, Cedric Tillman. The Titans need speed, and that's one thing Cedric Tillman doesn't really bring. Titans need speed. I'll say that they take Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee, pair him with CJ Stroud. The Green Bay Packers, via the New York Jets, and again, part of that Aaron Rodgers trade. Linebacker Trenton Simpson out of Clemson, my favorite inside linebacker in this draft. He's super versatile, can play all over the field, plays outside linebacker, inside linebacker, edge rusher, defensive line. He can even probably play like a little bit of like zone, getting coverage a little bit. So I like that there. The Jets, they need a tight end. They go Darnell Washington out of Georgia. Could he go in round one? Sure. But I think if he does fall, this is as far as he falls. The Jets need a tight end. And I think Darnell Washington is going to be their guy. He's a physical beast, massive. He has all the tools you want. Atlanta Falcons, they're going to go with a linebacker, Jack Campbell out of Iowa. Another upgrade to their defense. He's my third favorite linebacker in this draft. Behind Drew Sanders out of Arkansas, number 2. But his tackle numbers extremely high. Iowa, very productive. Has a very good defense at Iowa. And I think Jack Campbell is your best pure linebacker. I think Drew Sanders does a little bit more of the edge rushing stuff. But I like him there to the Falcons. Number 45, the Green Bay Packers. Mozzie Smith out of Michigan. He's been mocked in the first round a couple times, and I like him in the early second. Athletic freak, massive frame. It's going to translate to being very good in the run game. He's going to be a run stopper immediately for the Packers. Patriots, I think they go edge rusher Keon White out of Georgia Tech. It's another potential first rounder. I've seen him mocked in the late first several times. In this scenario, he falls to the Patriots at number 46. He's older, but he offers versatility schematically, something that I think Bill Belichick is going to appreciate. The Commanders, they go tight end Luke Musgrave out of Oregon State. He's explosive. That's Musgrave's thing. I liken him to like say Mark Andrews. I think that's a good comparison for them. He's explosive, and if he falls this far, it's almost a lock that he goes to a team that needs a tight end like Washington. They're going to be happy that they went with Darnell Washington. The Jets went with Darnell Washington a few picks earlier. He's an instant upgrade at a position of need. I think he fits what the Commanders do better than Darnell Washington. I think the Lions take linebacker Drew Sanders. I was mentioned earlier. He's versatile to either play off ball or rush the edge. He has 3-down upside. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. Pick 49, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to go Emmanuel Forbes out of Mississippi State. Another guy that's been mocked in the first a couple times. He's been up and down people's cornerback rankings. And I definitely see the upside. So I think the Steelers get a little bit of a steal here with Emmanuel Forbes at 49. The Bucks at 50. Felix and Duki Uzoma, Kansas State. I probably said his middle or his, first half of his last name wrong. But another guy that I've seen maybe first round, early second round, falls a little bit further. It's the mid second round here. His prototypical size and speed. He just got to be more consistent down, play in, play out. Pick 51, Miami Dolphins picking for the first time in this draft. Let Mike Gesicki walk. So I think they replace him with Sam Laporta out of Iowa. Guy that some people say is a better prospect Then Darnell Washington, I don't see that. I like Sam Laporta a lot. But I think he's going to be a good tight end, and he almost fits that Mike Gesicki mold perfectly for Miami. So I think he's an instant, 1-to-1 replacement. Just younger Mike Gesicki, a little less experienced. Now at pick 52, it's the moment that I'm sure you all have been waiting for. The Seattle Seahawks are going to go with quarterback Hendon Hooker out of Tennessee. Um, Hendon Hooker, I said it earlier, it pays off here. The Seattle Seahawks need a quarterback. Geno Smith is a very common comp for Hendon Hooker. And I like him to sit behind Geno for a couple years, learn from a guy that's been around the league. He's been all over the place. Hendon Hooker sits behind him, learns for a year, lets that injury rehab. Maybe he takes over for Geno Smith after a year. Maybe he takes over for Geno Smith after 2 years. He's older. He's coming off that injury. You don't know if he's going to have that same dynamic running ability that he showcased all year. But with some improved pocket presence, which will get at NFL level coaching, Pete Carroll, um, you give him a chance to coach up Hendon Hooker. And I think he's maybe a threat to be a real good starter here in a few years for the Seattle Seahawks. Chicago Bears via Baltimore, Edge Tuipulotu. That's another hard name. We're getting into the hard names here in the second round. I can't wait to see these guys try to pronounce it on draft night. He's an edge rusher out of USC. Good upside. He's burst. He has a lot of burst off the line, and he wins at the point of attack. The Bears still need to improve their pass rush, and I think Tuli Tuipulotu is definitely an answer there. 54, the Chargers go with tight end Tucker Kraft out of South Dakota State. They reach probably a good amount. He's probably a third round, fourth round guy. But they desperately need a tight end because Gerald Everett needs a successor. And I like Kraft to come in and start learning from him. Detroit Lions via the Minnesota Vikings. I think they take safety Sidney Brown. I think that's in the TJ Hawkinson trade, by the way. Safety Sidney Brown out of Illinois. Sidney Brown, value at a place of positional need for the Lions. Lots of defense early, but the value at the O-line and tight end positions go a little bit farther for the Lions. So I think they maybe go Schoonmaker in the next round or something like that. Tight end out of Michigan, Luke Schoonmaker. I believe a tight end out of Michigan. I'll have to double check on that. Jacksonville Jaguars, I think they take edge rusher Derek Hall out of Auburn. They need to upgrade at the edge rusher position, and Derek Hall falling this far. I think that's a good pickup for the Jaguars this late. New York Giants, I think they picked John Michael Schmitz out of Minnesota. He's a center by trade, but offers enough skill to get kind of moved around as needed. New York still needs a wideout, but as I mentioned earlier, there's more depth there than most think. Dallas Cowboys take offensive tackle Cody Mouch, North Dakota State, another offensive lineman that's likely to move to guard here. Mouch can fill a need for the Cowboys on the interior. He's probably the best lineman available. Now, pick 59, the Buffalo Bills are going to go with Cedric Tillman. This is probably the highest I've ever thought Cedric Tillman was going to be mocked. And he's going to ultimately be the best receiver that goes outside of the first round. And I think he will be a better NFL receiver than Jalen Hyatt in the long run. He's physical, and he attacks that catch point better than I think any other receiver in this draft. I think he's the best contested catch receiver in this draft. I really like Cedric Tillman, man. But the Titans already have the reason the Titans, I think, go Jalen Hyatt instead of Cedric Tillman. They already have that guy with Traylon Burks. Traylon Burks is their go up and get it contested catcher. They need somebody to be speedy on the opposite end. And I think that guy is more Jalen Hyatt. I think the Bills, they could stand to just upgrade at wide receiver in general. And I like it to be Cedric Tillman. At pick number 60, the Bengals, we're almost there, guys. Don't worry. Pick number 60, the Bengals are going to go corner DJ Turner out of Michigan. Yet another flash in the plan on draft week with the first round mocks. I've seen him mock there a few times. I see too many flaws for him to go that high. But the upside is there, though. I see why people think he might be worth a first rounder. And the Bengals fans should be happy that they get a corner like DJ Turner at pick number 60. I think at 61, the Chicago Bears get a slightly better corner one pick later. I think we're going to see like a Jalen Rieger, Justin Jefferson scenario here. Not maybe not to that degree, but Chicago Bears via San Francisco, they're going to go get Clark Phillips the third out of Utah. Another guy slowly falling down draft boards, and he started the mock season as a first rounder, and I see why he's fallen, but I still see the first rounder in him more than most people. The fall is fair given his lack of makeup speed, but he's definitely going to be a strong corner for them. Philadelphia Eagles going to go get safety Antonio Johnson out of Texas A&M. They need to get younger at the safety position. Johnson's versatile. He's lined up pretty much everywhere in the secondary. Going to be a good pickup for the Eagles. And our final pick of the first two rounds, Kansas City Chiefs Siaki Ika Baylor. I love him more than most. Yeah, has first round upside, but a floor of like solid rotational player. So now we'll go through, kind of recap my positional rankings. Quarterback, I mentioned earlier, Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Will Levis, Hendon Hooker in that order. At running back, Bijan Robinson, Jameer Gibbs. Here's some guys that I think the Titans may need to pick. Zach Charbonnet, Devin Achane, and Zach Evans. All guys I think the Titans might target later on if they do decide to move on from Derrick Henry, which I think they should. I think they should. I think it's time for the Titans to press the reset button. I think they try to move both of those guys. Maybe we see the Titans picking again in the second round, assuming they can move Ryan Tannehill. The running back, like I said, Zach Charbonnet, Devin Achane, and Zach Evans out of Ole Miss. Wide receiver, I'll give you a top 7 for the wide receiver because I'm also going to go over where I think some of the Tennessee guys should go. Number 1, Jackson Smith-Njigba. Number 2, Zay Flowers. Number 3, Quentin Johnston. Number 4, Jordan Addison. Number 5, Josh Downs. Number 6, Jalen Hyatt. I love the explosive ability. And number 7, Cedric Tillman. Think he might end up being better than Jalen Hyatt or Josh Downs or maybe even Jordan Addison. But for now, as we go into the draft, I like him as the 7th best receiver. Dalton Kincaid at tight end now. Dalton Kincaid, Michael Mayer, Darnell Washington, Luke Musgrave, Sam Laporta. Now Princeton Fant, tight end for Tennessee. Allegedly in this draft process, he's being looked at as more of a fullback type player. And Tennessee did line him up there sometimes. They lined him up at tight end. He's a little bit smaller than your prototypical tight end at the NFL level. I think he has a lot of utility, and I think he could go maybe 7th round, but more than likely, I think he's an undrafted free agent. I think somebody will give him a chance somewhere to be a practice squad body. At tackle, Paris Johnson Jr. out of Ohio State, Darnell Wright out of Tennessee at number 2, Broderick Jones from Georgia at 3, Anton Harrison at 4, and DeJuan Jones at 5. My inside offensive line, interior offensive line, Peter Skoronski at number 1, Osiris Torrance at 2, John Michael Schmitz at 3, Steve Avila at 4, and Joe Tippmann at 5. He's out of Wisconsin. He didn't get picked in the second round for me. But I've seen him mocked as high as like early second round. Jerome Carbon from Tennessee, I think he's maybe a 7th rounder. He brings some positional versatility. He can play center. He can play guard. Don't really see him playing tackle, but that versatility, I think, will get him a practice squad spot somewhere or a 7th round selection, maybe be a depth guy for a team somewhere. I think he's more than likely a 7th round guy, though. Defensive line, Jalen Carter, Kalijah Cansey, Siaki Ika, Brian Brissy, and Mozzie Smith in that order for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In my draft, I had Brian Brissy and Mozzie Smith going before Siaki Ika. I have him ranked above both of them. These are for really like tackles, defensive tackles or defensive ends. For edge rushers, on the other hand, you got Will Anderson Jr. out of Alabama at 1, Tyree Wilson at 2, Miles Murphy at 3, Nolan Smith at 4, and Lucas Van Ness at 5. He's like right there with BJ Ojulari. Either one could go either way there. At number 10 overall in my edge rusher rankings, I've said it before. This is a deep edge rusher class. I have Byron Young out of Tennessee. I think Byron Young is most likely a third rounder. I think the athletic tools that he brings certainly warrant him a spot maybe that high. I like because when I was saying when I was reading off my second round picks, I'm sure some of you may be turned out or tuned out, but several guys outside of my top five uh went outside of the or they went several guys outside of my top five went in the draft, right? BJ Ojulari, Will McDonald, Keon White, Felix Enudike Uzoma, Derek Hall, Tuli Tuiopolotu, Isaiah Foskey, all those guys I had go before Byron Young. I think Byron Young is better than maybe Tuli Tuipulotu. I think he's better than maybe Derek Hall. I think he's better than probably Felix Enudike Uzoma. Um, so I think at 10, I think that's a fair spot for him. And I think he'll be a third rounder. I understand why he would slide. He's twitchy. He flies off the ball. He tests well athletically. He's athletic, very athletic. And he'll excel on stunts and things like that, where they get him as a free rusher because he's very quick. And he's a little bit old, but I love the athletic tools Byron Young brings. So I think he's the 10th best here, and I think he could go third round very easily, very easily. In fact, I think he would be the next edge rusher off the board outside of the second round. Inside linebacker, we got Trenton Simpson out of Clemson, Drew Sanders out of Arkansas, Jack Campbell out of Iowa, Noah Sewell out of Oregon, and Diane Henley out of Washington State. And then we got Jeremy Banks out of Tennessee. Where do I think Jeremy Banks goes? I like him in maybe the 6th round. I've seen him mocked as high as the 3rd round. I don't think Jeremy Banks is a 3rd round player. But I definitely see he will have some utility special teams wise, and he's not going to be an every down player, but he will be a solid guy that you could rotate in a couple plays. You need your linebacker to take a spell or something. He'll be a backup. But I like Jeremy Banks as a high upside backup at the NFL level. I think he's maybe a 6th rounder. Somebody wants to take a flyer on him, kind of like how I feel like you get a lot of value in the 6th round. Titans, that's where they drafted David Long, who ended up being a great player, just got a big deal from Miami. So Jeremy Banks, I think, goes in the 6th round. At corner, Christian Gonzalez, Devin Witherspoon, Joey Porter, Deontay Banks, Joey Porter at 3 and 4 respectively. So Christian Gonzalez 1, Devin Witherspoon 2, Deontay Banks 3, Joey Porter 4, and Cam Smith 5. I think all those guys go first round because they're all very good. At safety, Brian Branch out of Alabama, Antonio Johnson out of A&M, Jordan Battle out of Alabama, Brandon Joseph out of Notre Dame, who I had slide a little bit in this, Sidney Brown out of Illinois. I had Jordan Battle and Brandon Joseph both slide. Trayvon Flowers, I think, is kind of an interesting guy. I think he's a 7th rounder or undrafted free agent. He'll be somewhere in that range. He'll be like one of those last flyer picks. I saw him mocked to the 49ers at like pick 250 or something like that. And I definitely see why. He has some upside there to be a guy that you can rotate in on a couple plays. He's not a good matchup for pass catching tight ends, but he could definitely be like a help guy, cover 3, something like that, where he's dropped deep. And I feel like he's not super quick, but he has enough quickness to keep up with receivers to be help for corners at the NFL level. He'll be a rotational player ultimately. That's about it. I feel like for the draft, like I said, this is my favorite night of the year. I'm going to be staying up all day on Saturday watching rounds 4 through 7. I always do. I'll stay up and watch the first round. I'll stay up and watch the second round, even after the Titans have picked. Um, just because I really, really enjoy watching the draft. And you know, maybe one day you see me as the next Mel Kiper. I'd love to be the next Mel Kiper. I just love the draft, man. And I feel like this is gonna be an extra fun one with the quarterbacks that are there, the wide receivers. This is a deep class for wide receivers. Deep class for running backs, I really feel like Bijan, Jameer Gibbs, Zach Charbonnet. I like Charbonnet a lot more than most people. And then you got a lot of these super twitchy backs. Um, this is I really like this class as far as depth. Maybe there's less of those tier one, like super high level guys. But I feel like as you get to that second, third round range, there's a ton of guys that have that value. I feel like you will be able to get maybe some second round, third round value in day three, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I'm excited, man. Um, I encourage you to send me what you think I got wrong. Where do you think the Titans go? What do you think the Titans do? Is there some team that I picked totally wrong for? Where do you think these volunteers go? I want y'all to, tell me what you're thinking. Again, sorry, it's only me pretty much just reading off a mock draft and justifying why I think those guys will go where I think they'll go. Um, last minute, Presley got sick yesterday. Hope she gets to feeling better. So we can get back into our groove, back into our schedule. We'll do a draft recap episode where we talk about the Tennessee Volunteers and where they go. Maybe talk about the Titans. I don't know. Hopefully have that guest that I was talking about on soon. Um, he's a busy guy. He's a busy guy. But we'll hopefully get him on soon. Hopefully have Presley back, get her feeling better. Um, so yeah, that's about it for today. I thought about it. I might do like a live stream where I react to the picks in real time or things like that. I don't know. We'll see. If it is, it'll be posted on the Facebook, it'll be posted on the Twitter, it'll be posted on the Instagram, and I'll probably be live on Facebook, Twitter. I guess you can't really go live on Twitter. You kind of can. I'll be live on like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. If I do decide to go live on draft night. Otherwise, I might be busy, editing a Vol News episode or whatever else. But yeah, that's it for Riled Up. Uh, thanks as always to WTK, to Out of Pocket Sports, the guys over there. Yeah, man, this is my favorite night of the year. I'm super excited. I'm gonna be, dancing around to see what the Titans do, man. Because as y'all know, I'm a Titans fan, and I really do hope it's a move for a quarterback. Hopefully, you don't have to give up too much, but I really do hope it's a move for a quarterback. Like it's the only way the Titans are gonna be competitive long term. But yeah, that's it. That's it for me. Um, just me. I know it's kind of sad. I feel it's weird not having Presley here to help me sign off. But because she always makes fun of how I sign off. But yeah, we appreciate you all for watching. As always, comment, share it, like it, whatever else. You know, tell me what you think. Comment. That's what I want to hear. I want to hear what y'all's thoughts are. So if you've listened this far, thank you so much. We appreciate you for watching very, very much. And that's it for this episode of Riled Up. I'm telling you, man, it's gonna be a fun draft. And do not tell me Jalen Hyatt's a better receiver. Jalen Hyatt has way too many flaws. I'm sorry. I love Jalen Hyatt. He's got way too many flaws. Um, so don't comment that because I'll just say you're wrong. But yeah, that's it. Appreciate you guys so much, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.